Welcome back, guys. It's the Tightwad, and today we're going to learn about tape measures, or measuring tapes, or measuring tapes, whatever you want to call them. There are lots of different things that these guys will do that you probably don't know about. So let's get started. The first tip I'm going to share with you is, well, the tip of the tape measure. And several of our tips today are actually related to this tip. But the first one today is I'm going to talk about why there is slack in the tip. So you can see this is held on by 3 rivets on this one, 3 rivets on this one, and 2 rivets on this one. And they're all wiggly. And that's done by design. The reason is, if you're butting up against something, it pushes the tip in, so it gives you an accurate measurement. But if you're pulling against something, the width of this is going to throw your measurements off. So it's going to release just a little bit to still give you an accurate measurement going down the tape. I need some props for the next tip. So I'm going to hammer a nail into this board. And since we're already talking about the tip of the tape measure, we're going to move to talk about what this notch is right here. So every tape measure has a little hole in the front. The sole purpose of that hole is to be able to easily hook it on a nail and pull the tape long distances. I know you can hook it on the edge of most materials, but sometimes there's a bevel on the edge of the material, or you'll walk about 15 feet away and your tape measure tends to slip off of it. But if you hook it on a nail head, it's not going to pull off no matter how hard you pull. It's a nice sturdy way to hold your tape measure when measuring long distances. Another cool thing I want to point out about measuring tapes is that, yes, it does say the length of the tape right here on the side, but sometimes that gets worn off or covered up with mud or paint. But the tape itself also says the full length of the tape. So you see right here it says 25 feet. On this tape it says 16 feet. And on this one it is another 25-foot tape. So all tape measure brands that I've found show within the first 3 inches the full length of the tape. I now want to talk about some of the markings that are common on measuring tapes. And I have a Stanley here and a DeWalt here. And they have very similar markings. The DeWalt having a few more. But we're going to start with this. Notice that every foot here, 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 and here has a nice large arrow on it to indicate that you're at the every 12-inch increment. So this is the 2-foot mark at 24 inches. But there are also red numbers here. These red numbers start over at every foot. So after I get to 1 foot, it continues on 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 to 24. But it also starts back over at 1. So for people who have more difficulty reading a tape measure, I now know that this mark right here is 1 foot and 7 inches. And the same applies if you go up to 3 feet. So here I have the 3-foot mark, and I can go to 3 feet, 7 inches, and then I can add a half, a quarter, an eighth, or a 16th. The next thing you might notice that there are numbers with a red rectangle on them on both tapes. And these are our 16-inch centers. So whenever building walls in most states, the code is 16-inch on center for walls. Meaning, if you start with your first stud here, your next stud will be at 16 inches, your next stud will be at 32 inches, and your next stud will be at 48 inches. Not only are the numbers red, but there are also arrows pointing exactly to where it would go. One of the lesser common markings on measuring tapes are the black diamonds. And notice this just beyond 19 inches. It's actually 19.2 inches. And then it's found again at 38.4 inches. And again at 56.6 or 57.6 inches, and so on, every 19.2 inches down the tape. The reason for this is that 19.2 inches in the United States is where floor joists go. So while studs are 16 inches on center, floor joists are 19.2 on center. Sounds like a very odd measurement, but there's a reason for it. The most commonly found boards in the United States are 8-foot long timbers. So if you divide 8 feet, which is 144 inches, by 5, you get 19.2. This DeWalt tape is my favorite measuring tape to use currently, and it's because it goes all the way down to the 1/8 of an inch. To learn how to read a tape measure, you first need to know that the inch marks go all the way across, And then there are 16 lines between each inch mark. So this is 1/16, 2/16, 3/16, 4/16, and so on. There are also a little bit longer lines that are 1/8 inch lines. So it's 1/8, 2/8, 3/8, 4/8, 5/8, 6/8, and so on. And then you go up to the next longer line and you have quarters. So 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, 4/4. And then the longest lines being the 1/2 inch marks. It's very easy to do math using a tape measure, and it's super easy to get half of a fraction. So for instance, right here we have 7/8. To get half of 7/8, we double the denominator, which is 8, and make it 16. So then we're going to look for 7/16. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So this is 7/16, which is exactly half of 7/8. The same applies to half. So to make it simple, you could do 1/2, double the denominator to 4. So it's going to be 1/4 is exactly half of 1/2. I want to show you another trick you can do with a measuring tape. If I measure this board, I can see that it is actually 11 and 11/16. And to find half of 11 and 11/16 might be difficult. So if I want to find the center point of this board, I can put my tape at an angle and measure to the 12 inch mark here. So I'm tight on this end, I'm pulled down to 12 inches here, and I'm gonna make a mark right here at 6 inches because I know that's half of 12, that's easy. So now I can come back and I can measure to there, and it's 5 7/8 this way, and 5 7/8 this way. So I found the center point of my board very easily. Another thing I want to make sure you know about is that you always should measure when marking a board with a V. The reason why you mark with a V instead of a line like this is because when I walk away from the board and come back to it, I know exactly what point I measured to get to the V. If I look at this line, I don't know if I measured to this end of the line or this end of the line. But with a V, I always know that this side of the line is my measurement. One more quick measuring tip I wanted to show you. If you're rough cutting lumber and you just need to break down a large piece of sheet goods or get a rough measurement here, there's an easy way to make a line down the board. So I'm going to actually do this one at 2.5 inches down the center of this board. So I'm going to pull my tape to the edge tight here. I'm going to put my pencil, get some lead out, right at 2.5, and then I'm going to slide my tape measure down the board. And it's going to give me a nice straight line that is exactly 2.5 inches from the side of the board. Again, if I was doing fine carpentry, I wouldn't use this, but if I needed a close enough line, this is a great way to measure without pulling out a level and clamping it down to the board and getting a nice straight edge going there. Another tip using a measuring tape is to use it to do division. So you can easily find the half of something by going to the measurement you're looking at. So if you're good in math, you might know exactly what half of 43 is. But if you fold it in half and look in the elbow of the tape down there, we see that it is actually 21.5 right there in the center. So again, if I had 38 or 39.5, I could look down here and it's a little bit less than 20, so it's 20 or 19 3/4. I wanted to show you one more application of using the tape measure to do math. And say I needed to go 44.5 and I needed to subtract 5 1/4 from that. Again, if I'm not good in math, I could line up the tip of my tape measure right at 44.5. And then I could take my 5 1/4 down here and I could see that my total would be 39 1/4. So you just go with the length you need to remove here and then match it up with the other side. One of the things my brother and my dad and I used to do in the hardware store where I grew up working in was play with measuring tapes. And one of the games we'd play was to see how much standout a tape had. So how far could you roll out your tape before it broke and fell down? And when we say break, we don't mean it actually breaks, but meaning it pops like that. So this first tape that we were looking at today popped out at about 5 feet and 8 inches. And why is standout important on tape? if I'm trying to measure an 8-foot board and I'm standing on one end of it and I want to just reach my tape down to the other end and save me 3 or 4 steps, it'd be nice if my tape would reach out 8 feet before breaking over. This next one is my Stanley Level Lock 25 foot. And it pops out at about 7 feet. Now I'm going to show you my favorite tape that I use or grab the most frequently. I either grab the 25-foot version or the 16-foot version of this. I actually grab the 16-foot version more often because it is a little bit lighter. And I'm currently at 8 feet and it's still going. And I'm at 9 feet. And I'm at 10 feet. So this particular tape doesn't break until about 10 feet. And I can feel it's actually made out of better material. But I did buy these on sale, and I'm a tightwad. So I got these on a great sale. It was a 2-pack at Christmas a couple of years ago. If I was going to buy one for the regular store price, I'd probably go with a Stanley Fat Max or one of the higher-end Stanley brands instead of buying the DeWalt, because these do get a little bit expensive at times. But that's a good way to quickly see the quality of the tape measure when you're in a store, is you can quickly pop it out and see how far it stands out. And it's a lot of fun too. I hope at least one of these things is not something you already knew about tape measures. If you have any additional tips, put them in the comments section and I'll be sure to record a follow-up video and give you credit in it. Leave any questions you might have in the comments section and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Click that subscribe button in the center of the screen right now and then turn on the notifications so you'll know next time I post a DIY style video. If you want to become part of Tightwad Nation, be sure to follow me on Instagram at TightwadDIY. I tend to post some behind the scenes footage and also some of the videos before I even post them on YouTube. I hope you guys have a great day.